I'm just glad you're here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start the meeting. It's 7:05. This is a September 2024 community meeting for East Liberty Park Community Organization, otherwise known as ELPCO. My name is Christina Robb, and I currently serve as chair. And I am elated for this meeting because we are post a very successful 9th and 9th Street Festival. So we're going to give a lot of thanks during this meeting. Let's see, in the room, we have multiple board members and people I would like to introduce, or in the Zoom room. First of all, we have Alicia Cunningham Bryant. She represents our West Emerson geographical area. She also is the chair of our land use committee. I'm just going to go in order of who I can see on the screen. I have Amy Hawkins up there. She chairs the Ballpark Community Council, and she's going to go over some stuff with us today. We have Detective Follows, who we'll hear from in a little while. We have Andrew. And Andrew, can you tell me how to say your name? I don't want to butcher it.
Yes, absolutely. It's spelled just how it sounds. It's pronounced Katsoharakis.
Okay, Andrew Katsoharakis
Yep.
is a potential new board member for us, and we'll have some more on that later. In black, back in black, we have Judy Short, who is also lives in our West Emerson area, but she is our land use advisor. She is the land use chair for Sugar House Community Council, and we do share the overlap between 1300 South and 1700 South with Sugar House. So it's really great to work closely with that community council on so many different things. We also have Jeanette Young, who serves as our secretary treasurer. Marnie Chandler serves as our Gilmer Park representative. Amy Albo is our 9th and 9th business liaison. She lives in the East Liberty Park area. And then we have two board members who have contacted us. David Jones, he is absent today, and he is a member at large. And Alan Crittenden is our vice chair of our land use committee. He is also absent. And Marshall Bailey serves as our East Liberty Park community representative, and he is ill. So thanks everyone for calling in and letting us know that you wouldn't be here today. Obviously, the fire, we always hold the space as soon as we open our meetings up every month to the Salt Lake City Fire Department, Station 5. They pop in to our normal in-person meetings when they are available. But since this is a Zoom only, we won't be hearing from them today. And we're going to just go right on to our 7:10 time slot, which is Detective Samuel Follows, our Salt Lake City Police Department District 5 Community Liaison Officer. Welcome, Detective Follows.
Thank you. It's good to be here with everybody tonight. For those that may not know me, I'm Detective Fallows. Like Christina said, I cover districts 5, 6, and 7 in the city. So there's a lot of different community councils between those three, excuse me. And so part of my job as the community liaison detective is to kind of number one, be a go-between for the department and the community, and try and connect resources as much as I can to the community, get them information or send them to places where they can send information about, different things like drug houses, things like that. We get those kinds of tips all the time. So I can kind of help with that kind of stuff. And then also I come to these meetings and I report on the crime stats for the neighborhood. And we kind of go over other pertinent information. And then if y'all have any questions, just feel free to throw them up in the chat while I'm talking, and we'll kind of get to those at the end. But before we get into anything else, let's just talk about the crime stats for the neighborhood. We're going to look at August of 2024. Everything I talk about can be found on the SLCPD website, which is just slcpd.com. And everything is we have a lot of open data, a lot of available data that I know Christina and Amy and other members use quite a bit. So it's a pretty cool service that we offer as the Salt Lake City Police Department. So when we're pulling up the stats for this month, and we always look at the last full month, so August is the month we're looking at, we had a pretty good decrease in crime from last year, from the year over year. So Last year we're at 34 reported in August. This year we're at 10, with only one of those being a violent crime in the area, which is good. We're trying to keep that number down. That's kind of our city goal, is what we've been going after a ton lately, is just trying to get the violent crime down in the city. We've been pretty successful so far. And so just to give you an idea, the 3-year average for ELPCO for violent crime is down 15.4%, and the property crimes are down 46.6%. So that's I'm always happy to see numbers that are down, but I also want to make sure that we're still getting accurate reports of things that are happening. And so I know that sometimes we can have a little bit of reporting fatigue, or we can have where we just, it may not seem very significant, and sometimes it isn't necessarily super significant. But for me, as your community liaison, I utilize a lot of statistics, a lot of numbers and things like that to drive the resources that I have available to me. And I can use different kinds of resources. It can be, I can get my statistics from like community complaints that I receive personally. But most of it comes from when I look up crime stats in a specific area that really backs up what I try to do when I'm trying to drive resources to a specific neighborhood. And so just a good example I like to use, because it's an easy one, is like, for instance, if there are a bunch of bike thefts happening in one small neighborhood, if none of those get reported, then I won't really know about it. Or if I do find out about it, if I try to, for instance, I could probably get like the property crimes unit to do like a bike sting operation or something like that. If I'm going to put something like that together, I have to be able to back it up with some numbers and things like that to kind of say, hey, we had like 15 bike thefts in the last month, right? In this small, concentrated area, can we put together some overtime or some extra time for officers to come out and just put together like a bike op or something like that? And so it's just to kind of illustrate what we can do. It kind of helps with that kind of stuff. So a really easy way to report, and that we're definitely working out some kinks, so maybe it's not so easy. But the online reporting system, it's everything's been switched over to what we call City Protect now. It's like the new, it's a Motorola thing. They're doing we brought everything in house, and so that's the technology we use to do the crime reporting. So it's got some bugs to be worked out, but online reports is a really easy way where you don't really have to wait around for an officer. You don't have to call into dispatch. You can just go online. Again, slcpd.com. You can click to file an online report, and it still kind of puts a dot on the map for me, so I can see where we got the problems and stuff. And that way, if Christina comes to me, or like when Amy comes to me for ballpark issues and things like that, I can look up the crime stats and go, hey, yeah, look, this is showing what they're seeing, and it helps me kind of drive those resources. So but yeah, overall, we're looking pretty good. We had 5 thefts reported to us. We're kind of coming into the colder season. We're starting to a little bit, or Utah's at least trying, like every other day, it seems like. So as it gets colder, just remember, as you're warming up your vehicle, to be with it, and to not leave it unattended. We get a lot of stolen vehicles during the wintertime because of like unattended running vehicles that people are trying to warm them up for work and things. And those are definitely crimes of opportunity where our suspects are looking for that opportunity to be able to go out and steal a car. So a couple of years ago, we even had people leaving like extra key fobs in the vehicles just as like a backup key. But again, you don't want to do that, because once they get into your car, or if you forget to lock it or something like that, like it's gone. It's going to be gone. The car will be gone. So just a good reminder for that. And then just to go into a little bit of some of the things we've been doing in some of our kind of hotspot, more problem areas, kind of the 1200 East area behind East High School. I've been working a lot with Christina, who has been working diligently with the East High School's administration and the police department, and doing a really good job of being a good go-between. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. I wanted to highlight the really good work that our SRO is doing over there. He's been super responsive with Christina. I believe it's Officer Redmond. That's right, Christina, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Officer Redmond. He's been really phenomenal, and I've reached out to him as well, asking for his help over there, and he's been pretty awesome helping me. I've recently got some of our traffic units to go out there, and I'll have to hit him up again just to remind him, I think. But about a month ago, I hit them up to also kind of just do some enforcement over there when they can get a chance. And then we've also put up like a police camera in that area to kind of help tap down on some of those issues. And we're seeing improvement. So that's what we're looking for, right? Is improvement. And so I'm really happy with the hard work that our officers and that the SRO especially has been doing over there to kind of help you residents that live right there on 12th East, you know, between Sunnyside and that area. So, other than that,
Amy
looks
has
like
her
you had a
hand up.
question.
Amy
Yes.
Hawkins has her hand up. Let's go to a question.
Why, thank you, Christina. Detective Fallows, I'm a faithful user of the SLC mobile app. Should I just delete that from my phone and get this new app? Should I be using two apps simultaneously? What's your advice?
So the SLC mobile app should just be updated, I think. Is there a different app now, like a completely different one?
I thought SLC Protect was the new app. Did I misunderstand?
Well, yeah, a little bit. So the City Protect is like the program that's going to run everything. So it's going to run our online reporting. It's going to run the SLC mobile. It's going to run everything. So that's just like the back end technology, I guess, that's going to run it all. So definitely keep the SLC mobile app. That is a good question, and I should clarify. So that's awesome. Thank you, Amy. Yeah, keep the mobile app. What basically it's just the program is going to take everything and put it where it needs to be. So if it's an online police report, for instance, then it'll just go to the detective unit that, like, if you submit a theft report. If it's SLC mobile app request for a concern regarding homelessness, then it'll go to the city heart team. So it's still very important to do the SLC mobile app and stuff. And you know, that drives the SLC mobile app. Sometimes it feels like it's kind of a waste of time. On Thursdays, every Thursday morning, I have a meeting where we go over all the different camps and all the different areas that need attention, whether it be like biohazard cleans, cleaning up needles, human waste, whatever it is. We go through all these different areas in a meeting, and we kind of prioritize based on, how many complaints we received, whether it's close to a school, whether it's close to a senior center, that kind of stuff. And then we kind of just get the services out where they need to be. So again, it comes back to, like, if you're that greasy wheel, you know, you're just greasing the wheel and making the complaints. They're going to see where the problem is. And the more complaints they have in an area, the more likely they're going to throw resources at it. Right. So I know that's something like Detective Mines used to preach a lot too. And I've said it a lot too, like, just be the greasy wheel that, you know, the grease that helps that squeaky wheel turn, and you'll get more resources that way. And sometimes that can be frustrating for sure. But do know that they do go somewhere, and we do look at them, and we do kind of prioritize everything. It's just not as fast as we'd like it to be. We just are limited by the resources that we have. But
Don't worry, we'll stay squeaky. I just needed to understand if there's one app or two.
yeah, perfect. Yeah, there's really, technically there's only one app, but the SLCPD to do an online report is still through the website still. So yeah. Thank
So
you.
let's just clarify. So the Salt Lake mobile app has stayed the same, right? So really this is happening on the back end. And I think what was happening, Amy, is the SLG Gov app, like the online desktop version, like things were just a little bad in the background, right? So now they've updated with this new software behind the scenes that brought all of those sort of fingers together that were all going in different places. And it's made it easier on the back end. Well, that's the goal, that it'll be easier on the back end. But just to reiterate with what Detective Follows just said, is that if you have to make an online police report, though, you still have to go online directly to the Salt Lake Police Department. People do get confused about that. So that's a great question, Amy.
Absolutely. And I'll just reiterate one more thing while we're on the subject, just not to beat a dead horse too much, but the SLC mobile app is for, besides graffiti, is for non-criminal reporting. So camps, concerns regarding homelessness, stop signs that are down, you can report those on there. A garbage can that needs to be replaced, crosswalk issues, street issues, any of those things that are non-criminal. Anything that's a crime, report it online, slcpd.com.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's clear. Any other questions?
Does anyone else in Zoom?
I just went to download, my Salt Lake City mobile, SLC mobile, and it does say on October 4th, all sorts of things are moving at various times in October, moving to slc.gov.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's a different thing.
Yeah.
So the state, so just to clarify, Amy, another good question that doesn't have anything police with the police department is that the state has changed its legislative policy. So we are right now slcgov.com, right? And now the state is making us go just to slc.gov. So every single department that was, email and everything like that used to be slcgov.com. On October 4th, they will finish that, and you'll now need to email them at slc.gov.
Yeah,
So
and I
that's
do
a
believe
whole different thing.
I believe the emails and stuff will still work for some time with both addresses.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I'm still getting emails. So technically,
Mhm.
right now, as of I do believe it was Monday, our emails have switched over to the slc.gov. So I'm now samuel.fallows@slc.gov. But I've still been getting emails all week. So far it's been okay. But I am gonna send an email out to my community council chairs. I need to do this still to update my email on the online and stuff. So but yes, I think for now it's been okay. We're still getting all the communication that we need to get and stuff like that. So we're good there. Did you want me to try and cover just a little bit about the commander stuff?
No, we can do that next time.
There's not a ton to, okay.
Yeah. If you
I think
want
that's all the
to.
updates I have.
If you feel like you want to, sure, do whatever you want.
Oh, so we've just had some structural changes in the department that don't really affect the community too much. We used to have captain positions, so we'd have like a chief, deputy chiefs, and then under them were captains. They've got rid of the captain title. They've given it a title called commander now, and they've added some different responsibilities. They actually brought in a whole new position that's a commander as well that covers oh man, what's the exact word? I believe it's Amy, come on. I know you know what the word is. The something populate the I can't think of the word right now.
I wish I was so cool that I knew what the word was.
I know you know it. I just
Detective
can't spit it out properly. It's the vulnerable population. There we go. The vulnerable population. We have like a division that's for the vulnerable population specifically. So anything regarding homelessness, all that kind of stuff. You knew that, Amy. I know you do. You probably did too, Christina. I can't think. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so we have a whole division now that's over just that kind of stuff. So anything like homelessness related, the HRCs, all that stuff, it was all brought under one division with one commander or, captain. Essentially it's a captain, but they're called commanders now. And I think that's a pretty positive thing, actually. That's a good thing because it everything will kind of be under one umbrella. So there'll be a lot more, cohesiveness across the city and all that stuff. So a few good updates with that. And then really the rest of it pretty much stayed the same. So those that are in the commander spots, I trust every last one of them. They're extremely good individuals. I've worked with all of them. They're really good people, and they're all really, really qualified. So we've got some really awesome leaders in the department right now and in our city at the commander level that are going to do phenomenal. So how much is going to affect the community? I don't really, not much, other than in a positive way. We now have a whole division that's covering the vulnerable population and things like that. So I think that's really the only update I really have for that. Any
That's
questions I can try and answer about it?
I think it's kind of a wait and see to see if a structure has changed, because I do know that, here in ELPCO and in other places, we've had a hard time just trying to figure out where to plug in, right? So this change seems like, at least in theory, that anytime there's vulnerable populations, regardless of where they are in the city, then certain people who are really good at working on that will continue to work on that. And hopefully we start to see some evidence, some data and things that this is a good change for. Does anyone else out there in Zoom have a question or comment? Okay, then I have one thing to say before we let Detective Fallows go. The west of East situation is not just, coming around. It has really been incredible, the work that we have done. And I want to just be clear that there has been two things. Obviously, a new student resource officer who has been really receptive and helpful. But I want to say Detective Fallows has played a huge part in this, because I think one of the things that was difficult for East Liberty Park, especially relevant to juveniles and some very dangerous situations, was that that you know, if it happens offside of the school, then the administration and school resource officers are generally tied up with the education component, you know, basically up on campus. So because of the process, the squeaky wheel process, you know, you start contacting the police over and over and over and over for the same chronic complaints. And because we're a numbers driven police department at this point, it did get the attention, but it wasn't really until Detective Follows tried to figure out how to educate like his lieutenants and some of his people behind the scenes that we started to get some movement on how to take care of the situation in a more ecological context. So I'm really thankful for Detective Follows for sort of being the puppeteer and bringing in the different parts that helped us with these kids. And again, they're kids, right? So we just want them to be safe, and we want them to be in school, and we want them to get the socio-emotional support that they need in order to, you know, stay on track and have a good life. So Detective Follows, right? I just really honestly can't thank you enough. We'll continue to work on it. I'm sure we'll get more hotspots. The other thing is that we have a new administration this year, and Ryan Oakes is a new principal who has just been incredible, valuable, to like, you know, helping his students make it in this world. So we'll have more on the Salt Lake City School District at another meeting. But again, thank you, Detective Follows.
Of course.
Anyone else have anything to say? Okay, great. We'll let you go then, and we're going to move on to our mayor's office report. And Josh Ribeiro from the mayor's office contacted me just earlier. He apologizes, but he has to attend the hearing on the Central 9th residential parking tonight. And we were very happy for him to be there with our Central 9th people, our fellow D5ers, getting some of these situations taken care of for their community councils. So he did pass on some information to me to spread to y'all, that if anyone out there did speak to him or somebody from the city council who were at our 9th and 9th Street Festival, he said he was just so happy. They were thrilled with the number of people who were out at the festival, one, but also who came up and talked and had a really great conversation. So what he wants people out there to know is that, one, he can contact us and we'll put that information directly to him if for follow-up. He's working on some follow-up issues for some folks that he spoke there, and that if for whatever reason somebody feels like they're slipping through the cracks, definitely reach out to us or reach back out to him to make sure you're getting your answers that you needed from the 9th and 9th Street Festival. Does anybody have any questions that right now that they would like us to pass on to the mayor's office? Great. Okay, so we're moving on to the next thing. And we are 10 minutes ahead of time, but I think that's okay. We have a long list of ELPCO business to go over tonight. And we're going to start with our committee reports. The first thing is Alicia, our land use committee chair, is going to give us an update on land use issues. Thank you, Alicia.
Yeah, hi everyone. Our land use committee report is pretty brief this month. We had our meeting also via Zoom 2 weeks ago. It's been a Zoom heavy month. And we are mostly looking at and wrote in support of the Intermountain Hospital zoning changes and the proposed plan brought forth to the commission this week. We see it as a valuable aspect of our community and growth opportunity, and the changes being proposed in the plan as exciting and dynamic for the neighborhood. So we're excited to support that and hope to see that happen soon going forward. Otherwise, we have our ear to the ground for what's coming through this coming month, and we're looking forward to reaching out to you all with more about those as they come in.
Great, Alicia. Do we have an update on the Kensington and 11th East pub? Did they?
We haven't heard anything subsequent to our meeting with the owner earlier this summer. He had said they were planning to open in October, living a block away and biking by it every day on my way to work. I do know that that's not true anymore, but I don't know that we have an updated deadline. As we noted in that conversation last month, there are a number of issues that are being dealt with, from electrical to broader structural issues in the building that are just taking longer to get done, things brought in, the time it's taking to put everything in. So we have reached back out. We're waiting for some more feedback about that, and we're looking forward to that opening here in the near future. I know he is too. He's very excited for it to open as soon as possible.
And did we ever make it public who is the he that is actually going to be the
Yes, I mean, he's made it public, so yes, it's the owner of Keto's. It will be a Keto's. Andrew is there, and he's very excited.
Great. Thank you, Alicia. So did you read the Planning Commission report from last night on the LDS hospital or the IHC hospital?
Unfortunately, I have not had a chance yet. I was at work straight through today, but I'm excited to read it. Would you like to give us all an update?
I didn't read it either, but I did
Okay.
quickly see that the Planning Commission did again on the development agreement for the LDS hospital. And mind you, this has been, a year and a half that we've been going around on this. They did forward a positive recommendation with some conditions. So it'll be interesting to look and see what those conditions are. And I invite everyone to come out when it actually hits the city council again. Of course, ELPCO will be ruling in or, weighing in. But, I would like to hear more going forward what other folks in our community think about this. Obviously, it's not an ELPCO, but it's something that has a huge effect on our greater community, especially those folks that live on the west side who have to travel so far to get hospital care or medical care, emergency care across I-15 and across the tracks every single day. So, all right. So Alicia, anything else that you need from us or
Not right now. If you, we're excited for our next ELPCO meeting at in October, and for Lucin, we hope to see a couple more people there this time. We should be in person. We don't have any more scheduling conflicts with Tracy Aviary, so we'll be back there in person, and we hope to see you all then.
Great. Okay. Anybody from the Zoom land that has anything that they'd like to add at this point?
Christina, would you mind putting the link or telling us where to find that in Intermountain Plan? Is it
yes, I can put it in, Amy.
You mind?
It's,
okay,
yeah,
thanks,
and it's
Alicia.
yeah, no worries. And I'll put the Planning Commission link in as well.
Okay, thank you.
Give me like 1 minute. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. No rush.
Just a reminder to, all of us who are learning about land use in ELPCO that you can always go to the Planning Commission website directly to their agendas, and you can click on the little video and you can actually watch all of the testimonies and things that happened this week. So, if you want more information, I find it really interesting when there's a, something that's effect to us. I also think that y'all should go back and watch our own Alan Crittenden at the Lake Street in court hearing, because he was fabulous. So, all right, moving on then. Let me look at our thing then. Okay, so we are going to do a quick download on the 9th and Ninth Street Festival. Of course, this is not a big download because we haven't had a time to plot through all of that, but there were some things that popped up during the festival, a lot of questions that came to light. And a lot of those things are covered in the the rest of ELPCO business. So, but the first thing I wanted to say about the festival itself, in that, this was my first year applying for a permit. And I couldn't have done this without the help of our last 9th and 9th Street Festival organizer. And again, 9th and 9th Street Festival is a separate organization than ELPCO. But Jen Bloom she's just such a great person to work with. And she's not here today, but from my heart, I have to say how helpful she's been. Now, some things that, a lot of people who applied to participate in the festival, many of them who've been doing it for, 30 years, didn't really realize that this is a brand new street. So, we were making everything up from scratch. We didn't know how wide the street was. We didn't know how to situate folks, how far to go east or west. And the whole situation was brand new. And we actually did not get our permit because the deer folks in fire, and again, really incredibly, people are working so hard right now with all the events. We got our permit the day before the festival. So the amount of stress that was going on was just remarkable. And having so many people pull together to have it go off was literally remarkable. So I am going to do some shout outs tonight to make sure that everybody understands that the ELPCO volunteers are what makes the board members are what makes the festival happen. And without those folks working, we'd have to pay employees to run the festival. So first of all, I'd like to thank David Jones, because David Jones wasn't able to make it, but he helped pass out notices to our entire community around the festival, reminding them of the street closures, the time of street closures, all of those kind of things. In addition to passing out all those notices, we also go around and have all of the businesses and as many people as home sign our canvas to make sure that, as part of the permitting process, that folks are aware that the street is going to be closed and things are going to be different in the 9th and 9th area for that day. So that was very helpful from David. He also distributed all of our signs around the neighborhood. So David's not here tonight, but, really want to thank him for that. The second person I want to thank is Alicia Cunningham Bryant, who again got ill at the very last moment. And when I was absolutely panicking that I was going to need some help, she put out a 911 to all of our board members and just made sure that everybody knew how much we need them. And they came out in force. And really a team effort like that was amazing. I also want to thank Jeanette, who initially thought she wasn't going to be there, but then also came in force, not only by herself, but with her husband, which, we threw him into the mix and he crushed it. Alicia Seeley is somebody, she brought some people to the table that we were really excited to have, including the women's ultimate team, Wild, and also was an incredible asset during the street festival. There's Marnie was on here. Marnie was just like so great manning the front of the house for most of the time when the rest of us were running around just being nice to people, which is always really hard to do when you have no clue what's happening. So that's exceptional. Amy Albo, she ran the sort of the food booth situation. And as everybody knows, mass gatherings are a lot about food safety, and just having never done food safety before, we managed to get 100% on our food safety part of our mass gathering permit. So thank you. And actually Amy Hawkins, who is on here, also was super helpful, part of the late night trash team. And that was a really intense taking down and building up the wall of trash cans and recycling bins that we needed to do as part of our permitting. So there's other people. Marshall isn't here, but it was really incredible to watch that team come together. And again, I can't thank you enough. Does anybody have anything to add on that? Okay, moving forward then, one of the things that came up was the trash and landscape issues. So as many of us know, there are no longer trash cans in 9th and 9th. And we were really excited that there's not trash cans in 9th and 9th because there was a problem with who was responsible for the trash cans, which is essentially just a couple businesses were basically doing trash for the entire district. And things got really tough when they phoned up us and asked Alicia and I to start emptying the trash cans in 9th and 9th on a regular basis. And we were just like, can't do that. So we are looking for recommendations on the trash situation. We had a trash team before the 9th and 9th Street Festival, and it's very clean down there right now with all the 4 days of trash cleanup before, as well as the post-festival cleanup. So that's something that we need to talk about moving forward. And then there's also the landscape update. Jeanette, I know you've been interested in landscaping, so I was hoping that moving forward, we could put this on your your list of things that we talk about. What do you think?
Yep, that sounds good.
Okay. Include in that ticket item the trees on 7th East, which ELPCO bought and is also part of the public lands package as far as who's responsible for what landscaping.
Okay.
Okay. Also, this landscaping issue, not all of the work has been done on the 900 South Trail, so there's going to be a little bit of crossover with the those folks on landscaping there. So we can talk more about that if you're willing to put that on your agenda.
Let's do it. Yeah,
Okay.
now that the website is done, yeah,
Great.
happy to work on other things.
Okay, great. Anybody have anything to say about that? Okay, so the next thing that came up is that there was I don't know where I got NGP, but the Neighborhood Boost Grant project from several years ago, having to do with the 9th and 9th plaques, was also brought up again by my predecessor, Jason Stevenson's, at the 9th and 9th Street Festival. And I was caught a little bit off guard because I thought that the communications on this had been pretty clear and, tied up. So I need that committee to get together again and figure out how to communicate with this particular constituent what came of all of that dialogue, if that's okay. And again, we have constituents that when they come to us with questions or concerns, and we have to just continue to try and communicate the best we can to them the process that we have undertaken. So Alicia, can you put that on onto your
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
it's also in all of our minutes that we talked about and available to the public, but yes, we can,
Okay,
we can reach back out.
might be just a direct letter that we can talk about at a different meeting, just a real clear communication. And again, I want to be really clear that at ELPCO, I mean, we have a chair, but we divide our duties and people do the work. And I haven't overseen really all of the great work that happens by our ELPCO board, but I mean, I want to commend them for doing that hard work. And just, again, sometimes we just have to continue to communicate the effort. And I think that would be great. And I appreciate that. Okay, so the other thing that came up is the multi-use trail update. It's been pretty clear all the time I spent down there working with the 9th and 9th Street businesses getting ready for the festival, is that there's some confusion about the multi-use trail and a commuter trail and how fast bikes should go on the trail and how to avoid pedestrians. And we want to honor that there is a lot of different folks utilizing that trail. And the businesses all said that they have all witnessed accidents, bicycle and pedestrian accidents. So I'd like to put on our maybe land use agenda going forward, some conceptualization of maybe more signage or something that we feel like we might want to undertake to make it, their wonderful 9-line more safe. So something to think about. Any questions on that? Okay.
think
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that's a good idea. Also, as a driver, you just plan on driving like you did, not knowing, but I think when you're riding on that, you think you have the right of way. So anyway, it's gonna be a bit of a culture change. So I like the idea of discussing and brainstorming some more signage.
Great. So go
Sorry,
ahead.
really quick. I don't know if this is the agenda. I didn't bring this up, but does this, under the purview of the multi-use trail, does this include updates on that utility box that's still there? Just because I'm new to the committee, so I don't know if that's something that you guys are working on or if the city is working on. I was just curious about that.
So Amy, I'm going to handle this one real quick,
Mhm.
and then I'm going to turn it over to you. So that utility box is what runs all the lights at the intersection.
Yeah,
And, background on the electrical issues at 9th and 9th have been long. And the reason is because of the copper wire stripping that occurred and copper wire theft, right?
yeah,
That actually broke so many of the conduits as well, as took out the copper wire. So the last update I got just before the festival was that is that the lighting situations have been taken care of, with the exception of that one piece that controls the lights. So there's some problems with that because it's complex, and that's why it's behind. But the
gotcha.
details are scanty. So that's a great question, and we will get more information on that going forward.
Cool.
All right. So I've just hit the big things that came up to me during when I was setting up the street festival. But I'm going to turn the time over to Amy real quick, who is the chair of the 9th and 9th committee, and see what ideas she's been noticing or hearing about for the 9th and 9th. Go ahead, Amy.
Oh yeah, Christina just asked me to lead a discussion as, they are separate, although they seem like we're all very joined. And just if you put your community, your neighbor hat on, or sort of imagine you're a business, we just wanted to ask what you noticed. I mean, it was, I think, a fantastic success by all measures, but of course, improvement, that's is the goal. So we just wanted to ask, just briefly ask you all things that you noticed and things we might think about for next year from a community perspective. So there were a lot of people from all over, who came. And I guess also I'm kind of curious how we get broader feedback in a constructive way as well from the community.
Does anybody have any ideas, or you want to just mull this over? I think it's a great question. And we can probably talk about it in committee later on.
And I will just mention something that I noticed as we were sort of on the perimeter. And I think it's something we all noticed and agreed on, was just that the signage and the street blocking and, just needed to be clear. I sort of realized I got some more insight into human nature, which was interesting. People in cars are very powerful and just kind of do whatever they'd like. Don't like to be told what to do, also, a few of them. And but I did like on the south side of, just being mindful of the neighborhood on the south side of 9th south on 9th East. So we added some extra garbage cans and homemade notes, but that was really congested with the bus going right, people going left, and I can imagine people on those side streets really, I mean, because we're just used to walking down those streets, just casually and not that much traffic. But I just thought, oh, I hope the community, like from a community standpoint, what could we do for signage before people get there that would encourage them to turn on 13th South, for example, just so we didn't have people speeding through angrily the neighborhood. So that was one thing.
Yeah. Yeah, the people that we were out there on the road and we had to punt. We had to take our plan that was really thought out and just go for it to get people into spot as fast as we could, because what Amy's alluding to is we could not get people to stop at the closed roads. So we had all these people out in the middle of the roads with people just deciding that the road was closed to everybody else but them. So, the next, as a representative of the 9th and 9th Free Street Festival, that is going to be the number one problem that we solve, is safety and transportation. So that's a really great segue into, part of why Andrew's here tonight, and something that Alicia and Jeanette are really interested in, is transportation. So, we've been talking about this a lot. Land use is great, but without the transportation elements in place, right? It's hard to talk about true land use or without causing all sorts of different problems. So we're excited to work on those things, Amy, and thank you for being so thoughtful and mindful about those things, because it's really helpful. It was also great to see you running around putting up barriers and making sure everybody was safe. So thank you for that. All right, so the last things and my little agenda, I noticed a couple typos here, but I just wanted to let you know, as far as CIP goes, the Liberty Park Greenhouse CIP was funded at several different levels. So not only are we going to we're going to see a lot of changes at the Liberty Park CIP. And I think at a future meeting, I will have Michael Mayo, who put in that CIP application. It took us 2 years, but it's good. We'll have him come in and speak. And the Harvey Milk Visibility Project CIP update on that is that we did receive the money, $30,000 from the city, not the entire amount, but a large part, to put up the banner arms along Harvey Milk to increase visibility of Harvey Milk. And then we're working really closely with Central Ninth and Equality Utah to continue the fundraising to pay for the banners, because, as we all remember, CIP doesn't pay for things like banners, things that are not permanent. They pay for permanent projects. So we'll be following up on that next month too. So we look forward to that. Does anybody have any questions about those 2 items? Okay, then I'm moving on. I don't know what happened to Marnie. Oh, Marnie. Hello, Marnie. Are you still there? Marnie Chandler entered the waiting room. I'm going to get her back on here. So we had this little update about West of East, and I'm going to turn the time over now to our Gilmer Park rep to update us on a public safety forum held by Yellcrest. Are you there, Marnie? Hi.
Hey, sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. Can you hear me okay? Got 1 bar.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Well, I was able to attend the public safety meeting that was held at Bonneville. I'm sorry, I just barely got signed back on. So apologies. I guess I came on at the exact right moment. But I was not informed before I went to the public safety meeting up at Bonneville Elementary that there had been some vandalism at the school as well. And I think there had been some racial slurs or some really, really difficult, I think, vandalism and graffiti that happened as part of these break-ins to the school. And I think that left a lot of the residents, especially around the Bonneville Elementary, really shaken, because it's a pretty safe neighborhood. People know their neighbors, the kids go to school so close to the elementary. So it's just not, I guess, it was just really a surprise. There are some minority kids who go to the school, and those were some of the most vocal parents, expressing their concern. I don't know if Detective Follows is still on, but he did a great job. I think staying on message as he has, with us as well, that, citizens need to report, even the small things that you're seeing that are, the small crimes. We can't be apathetic about it, because that's what will increase patrols in our neighborhoods. And so I think, before going to that meeting, I was, obviously aware of, the problems at the Garden Park Board and the break-ins there, and a lot of the sort of, stuff that's happening behind East High. And this was really this was a surprise to me as well, because I have elementary school kids, and so I guess there weren't really any promises or answers. I think the biggest take-home message that I had from that meeting is just that we really need to encourage people to report, those all crime, and do it through the non-emergency number, because that's, I think, what's going to help us to see more police presence in our neighborhoods, and hopefully limit or mitigate some of the crime. So there was nothing earth-shattering, but that was just a interesting meeting. So
Thank you, Marnie. Do you want to update us on the Garden Park Ward too? I know that we became privy to some important information regarding that. Do you want to go ahead and tell everyone?
I think I can. Is Detective Follows still on the phone?
It's public.
Oh, it is now. Okay. Cause actually, at the meeting up at Bonneville, someone asked about the Garden Park Ward, and Detective Follows was, he didn't seem to have the information that I had, which is, I think that they're putting in, real cameras across the grounds, that there was approval to do so, by the church, because it is kind of a very special property. But maybe that wasn't public a couple of weeks ago at the public safety meeting, which is why I asked. But I think that they're going to open the Garden Park Ward more often once those cameras are in. They're not in yet.
Right. Thank you, Marnie. We also did actually hear before the public safety meeting up there at Yellowcrest that there was some concern, and for people here online who don't know the history of our intervention into this, in that that there was a massive amount of vandalism both inside and outside of the Garden Park Ward last year. And our community, people reached out to us to try and understand why they felt like it wasn't being addressed to the extent that it needed to be addressed. So sometimes things take time, but we were made aware that there were charges pressed. And again, as always, when dealing with juveniles, I think ELPCO has agreed, our board has agreed, that we are very concerned about, what has in the past been really talked about, the school to prison pipeline, but now we just talk more about, making sure that young people get the support services they need to learn from these experiences. And, we're not aware past the charges being filed and what has happened, because again, juveniles. So as far as what our involvement now in the situation, we are essentially done and out. We've done our part. And Marnie was very instrumental in us knowing how, I live right behind a high school, a public high school, a very segregated public high school. But people who live right around that Garden Park Ward or any park see a very different segment of life and have a lot of different experiences because of the public And it was really great to hear from Marnie's community what their experiences were as a result of living close to the Garden Park ward. So again, it's been a great neighborhood effort. And Marnie, I want to thank you a lot for sticking with it and being patient, talking to your neighbors, and particularly your comments tonight, being on message like that. So great. So thank you. Anyone else have questions for Marnie or anybody on this one? Okay, great. Then I'm going to move on to, I did realize that I skipped something. The 9 Line Up date. 9 Line Up again is our celebration, our November annual celebration of the opening of the complete 9 Line Trail, in which we ask the public to walk, run, and bike the 9 Line Trail and to support local. So this year we're doing it again, November 15th, 16th, and 17th, right? So there'll be more on that, but we're really excited to have representatives, the 9 Line Up at the street festival, Doug Flagler from C9, the chair of C9, my partner in crime. He was there in force and raising money for 9 Line Up and the neighborhood visibility, or the Harvey Milk Visibility Project. So again, it's really great to be part of D5 and have all of us like working together and having each other's backs. So wish Doug was here, but unfortunately he's working on parking hearing. So again, thanks to them. All right, we're going to move through this really quickly. Their Public Lands Committee, and again, Jeanette is really interested in this kind of stuff. So this is just news to Jeanette. The Sunnyside Park revisioning happened. We were invited to participate. That was really exciting, and it was remarkable. Public Lands led a discussion on the revisioning of Sunnyside Park, which of course is important to us for many different reasons. The biggest reasons being the riparian corridor, in that Red Butte goes right through there, Milner Park, and then ends up in Liberty Park. So protecting that was really something that ELPCO came to the table with. But also that those playing fields are, there are no playing fields east of 7th East for our families to participate, youth and adult, in sports. So those two things were really widely spoken to, and we were excited to be part of this greater community who are all sort of discussing the same values. So we're thankful for Public Lands for having us. And then the other thing on this agenda item from the Public Lands Committee, this would be Marshall, who is ill. The Foothills Trail Plan has come back around, and they have, it's got a great history. Marshall worked really hard on this when he first came onto our board, and we're just going to put that on the table until he can get back to us on it next month. The next thing on our agenda, if nobody has any concerns out there, we're going to move right to new business. And I wanted to let you know that we received a letter from our D5 councilman, and I'm going to send that to everybody on our board. But I wanted to make sure that I just let you know at this public meeting that we did receive this letter. I'm going to send it to all the board, and we'll be discussing at the next meeting, how we want to address it. And then there was some issues that came up around boundaries. And I think everybody knows where I stand on boundaries, in that, I guess I'm just not a community council nationalist, if you will. But, I believe in boundaries are important in order to make sure our constituents get, what's it called? Representation, that everybody can participate. But I don't feel like boundaries are important if they limit folks' access, or I don't feel like I need to negotiate ELPCO boundaries all the time. I mean, if other community councils have something to add to our folks here in ELPCO, I welcome them. So I think that is going to be something I just wanted to bring up tonight, that we're going to go on to next we're gonna talk about later. I see. Do you have your hand up, Amy?
I did, but I can respect your boundaries, as it were, and hold off. Sorry, thanks, Andrew, for laughing. And put my comment in at another time.
Well, what I'm thinking is that you can go ahead and comment, but just let me just introduce Amy Hawkins, Chair of Ballpark Community Council, because she is the next person on our agenda tonight. She's going to talk to us about the discussions she led with the Salt Lake Community Network about recognized community organization liability. And I'm going to let her introduce this, but first I'm dying to hear your questions. So put it out there.
Oh, it was a comment, not a question. It was the worst thing. It was the irony of boundaries being confusing if we can no longer be a conduit of information up to our city council member, then we will have to go to other city council members to convey our wishes as recognized community organizations. Talk about confusing boundaries, am I right?
Yes. So even more confusing is that these guys don't know what we're talking about right
I
now.
know.
Haven't had a
So
chance.
that's why I was like, I better put a lid on it.
No, I'm really glad, because I think that, I mean, one wonderful thing about the East Liberty Park Board as individuals, each and every single one of them are just really bright, caring, and compassionate people, and they can, you know, they can fit your comments into to when they're actually made aware of what we're discussing.
They'll
But
put
for
it together.
now, we're gonna move on to your discussion, and I've opened up the screen so you can share whatever information you need.
Oh, cool. I'm just sometimes when I share, I'm going to share some PowerPoint slides. Sometimes when I do that, I find that it takes over my entire multi-screen setup and I can't see any of my notes. So I'm just going to share. You're going to say it's in the wrong view, but you can see the slides. I'm just going to share one of my desktops. I'm going to talk about something that sounds incredibly dry if I use the words, the professional language that surrounds it. This is actually an issue that Judy Short has been aware of and helped me on. Also, Christina Robb has. But I'm going to talk about volunteer status and partial indemnification. My goodness, what a mouthful. This is something that used to be in Salt Lake City Code, and we were recently surprised to find that it was struck from Salt Lake City Code by a vote of the council in June 2023. Why do we care at all? Because the Ballpark Community Council was diligently trying to revise our bylaws to, you know, reflect our current realities. The last time we wrote our bylaws, we weren't meeting over Zoom. We weren't, you know, being as flexible as we are now. So we were trying to introduce changes that reflected our current reality of meeting, saying like a Zoom meeting counts as a meeting, etc. And in doing that, we met with Christina Robb and folks from the Sugar House Community Council just to talk about what works well in your bylaws. What do you think you should leave out, that we should leave out when we're revising our bylaws? And the issue of legal liability came up. And this is something that Sugar House Community Council has addressed. It's in their bylaws, and they have purchased insurance to cover their board members from in the event of there being any kind of liability issues. What kind of liability issues could a community council ever incur, right? Well, the prior city code that I've highlighted here was about, well, what if there is some kind of lawsuit, a civil lawsuit concerning determinations and recommendations made within the scope of a community council's duties, right? We make recommendations about zoning, about activation. We put our opinions forth to boards, right? Like the planning commission, like city council, and actually, you know, we've dealt with the state legislature before. Some of what we say could be contentious. You guys have dealt with that, right? Like understanding that some of what you say as a board hasn't made everybody 100% happy all the time. And sometimes when folks aren't 100% happy all the time, they resort to legal action. Anyway, we used to have legal protection as volunteers in recognized community organizations. And you can go to city code and, you know, look up like what are our duties? Like we actually have this nice chapter in city code, you know, that states what we should do, you know, like we should have a definition of membership. We should hold public meetings. We should be open to everybody who's interested. But I'm most interested in the fact that this was struck. Judy Short commented extensively on this this early notification text amendment that surrounds a bunch of policies about community councils, like you know, where should you post signage if a property is going to be rezoned? Who all within the vicinity needs to be notified? There's a lot in there that's really good, and you can read the staff reports about this. It started in Mayor Biskupski's administration in 2016, and it, you know, it kept going. You can read city council staff reports that summarize some of the changes that were made or clarified by this ordinance. But curiously, never in any of these staff reports is it mentioned that this volunteer status and partial indemnification was removed. And I find that interesting, and I would like to know more. Because I don't think that any of us should, as the result of volunteering for our communities, put ourselves at personal financial risk. Like just because you sign on to a strong statement about, we don't think this rezone should go through, for example, I don't think that that should cause you to like lose your own home. Does that make sense? And I think that's a very extreme possible example, but I also think that it's not outside of the realm of legal possibilities, especially because the city voted to remove our partial indemnification. Why did they do that? So I put out a survey to basically every community council chair and community council board member for whom I had their contact information, just to get this out there. I presented to the Salt Lake Community Network to ask, like, who's aware of this change? What have you personally done in your community councils? Do you address liability in your bylaws at all? Do you have insurance? What are you thinking about this? Because I felt a little blindsided. And you know, it turns out if you look at the data, most community council bylaws currently, yeah, I got 20 responses so far. We're still hoping for a little bit more West Side participation, because frankly, we view it, it could be folks who don't have their own community festivals or sources of income for their community councils who are most vulnerable, for whom this would sort of just take them out if they. The official response from the city when we asked is that they believe that we're independent organizations and that we should be purchasing our own liability insurance. So that's something to understand. The city attorney has considered this. So, but again, at this stage, most community council bylaws don't contain language about liability. Some folks have explored insurance, but sometimes it's just for a specific festival or event as opposed to board-wide insurance. If you put everything together, it's a minority of folks who carry insurance. Most folks either don't know or don't believe that their community council can afford to pay for D&O insurance. It's like directors and officers insurance. And most people want to learn more about what our options are. Most people also want to know why the vote happened. And then only 1/4 of the people I surveyed were aware that this change had happened, which tells me that, you know, for a group of people who are hyper tuned in to messaging from the city, that's interesting that most of us were unaware of this change. But looking at the documentation, I understand why. It only showed up in those 1,500-page meeting packets. It was never in a staff report or presentation. So this is information that you guys get to consider about what to do with. And I'm happy to entertain questions about what I know, but also, you know, as a board, this is something for you guys to make decisions about. Andrew.
Yes, I'm curious, when the city said that they consider the community councils independent organizations, when they said that, or were they saying that's their new stance going forward and we previously were not independent, or are they saying that we're clarifying our stance has always been this way and now we're just clarifying that?
That
That's
seems like a
question.
very like religious interpretation, Andrew. I'm not aware of like the history of doctrinal interpretation. I will say, I could give you a very useful dissertation that was written by Dr. Jennifer Seelig, a former state representative, who also served in the Biskupski administration, that talks about that tension that's always existed for community councils. Are they completely independent from the city, or are they, you know, just a funnel for city knowledge? I have always viewed them as being somewhere in between. So I wasn't given to understand that this was apologies for keep using this phrase, doctrinal interpretation. I'm going to find the exact language and I'll put it in the chat that we received.
And I ask purely because I want to know more, and I feel like the answer to that question, it gives insight on, I guess, whether this was something that's just purely a paperwork thing for them, or like almost not hostile, but very pointed, I guess. I'm just curious about it.
Okay, here's the official language. The city attorney's office recommended this ordinance change in 2019, parentheses, which is why I guess I wasn't aware, because recognized community organizations are not part of the city government or city boards/commissions, and in their view, the city shouldn't indemnify or defend their members in a lawsuit. For example, if a member of the community council harassed or discriminated against someone, the city would be obligated to indemnify/defend that behavior without having any authority over the organization or its members. For that reason, it was recommended to be removed. I disagree with several things in that statement. For example, there was,
To be
if you
clear,
look at,
wait,
oh,
hold on.
go ahead.
Right. So to be clear, this was just a meeting in which this is quoting Weston Clark, who is, works for the mayor's office. And this is not a formal statement that was created. This is just a question that was asked of him, and that was his statement. Right.
Yes,
So
thank you,
before we
Christina.
go
That's
on,
completely
right, we need to
accurate.
clarify I don't want this to be contentious, and I don't want us to like lead people to believe that I don't want us to lead people to believe anything about this other than just the facts. So go ahead, Amy. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, there were some things that were incorrect about that statement. In that, the change to that ordinance that we're describing only showed up in staff reports as of May 2023 rather than 2019. We can show versions of the ordinance that were within meeting packets as late as April 2023 that showed that didn't have any information about striking this language. So that's a little ambiguous there. But I would be interested to get more clarification, just because it would be good to understand what we are liable for. And if we are completely independent of the city, I'm confused about why we pay an annual fee and submit our bylaws, and that that seems like a pretty far end of the interpretation.
Okay, great. Amy, thank you so much. In the we have a lot to cover just in the next 10 minutes. So I'm going to just kind of wrap this up And just to be clear that, Amy has done a lot of work on this, just a ton. Thank you so much, Amy. As always, I really appreciate your academic approach and, really packaging this in a way that people can understand. But, moving on, as far as this has to do with ELPCO, and for Andrew, to answer Andrew's question, we have talked a lot as an organization about our own liability and our own bylaws and our liability insurance at previous meetings when we first found this out. So, there's a history in our organization, and moving forward, we're going to have our legal experts, not our lawyers, but we do have some lawyers on our team that are super helpful, look at our liability insurance. And more specifically, we have talked last year that during this season, we would be looking closely at our bylaws, and we do not have a very good liability statement in our bylaws. So over the next month, we're going to be working really hard on our bylaws before our October general meeting. So Amy, again, I think Amy and I have talked about this a lot. So I think, moving forward, I asked you here tonight so you could explain in detail all of this. How do our board get more information from you, or do you see as next steps moving forward on the project that you're doing regarding making everybody aware of where we're going next with this? So that
I
we can
think
get
I'm going
answers.
to I think I'm going to nudge this out to a lot of community councils from whom I did not get a response, especially to make sure that we have that west side representation. But any community council that, might feel like they don't have a robust financial presence, it would be good to understand where they feel they are. I believe I've talked with Landon about getting, who heads the Salt Lake Community Network, about our next meeting hosting somebody from Utah nonprofits so they could discuss this. But of the community councils who do have liability insurance, it would just be great to share quotes. Who do you get it through? What does it actually cover? Just understanding that next step, I think, is critical. Judy Short shared with me about 10 minutes before the meeting that the Sugar House Community Council has directors and D&O insurance, was officers insurance. And
Which we do not.
It costs them $859 a year. So, but I don't know fully what that covers, but that's a number that's out there.
Great. All right, Amy, does anybody have any other quick questions for Amy on this? I mean, this is the first conversation about it. ELPCO will have many more conversations moving forward. I just want to make sure. And I am encouraging everyone to reach out to Amy directly if you have specific questions. Like I said, she's done a deep dive in this. And, everybody has her email. So thanks, Amy.
There it is. Please feel free to reach out. I can send you links to different meetings, screenshots.
Great.
Old language, the liability sentence that we included in our bylaws, but which we don't feel like has a whole lot of backing to it. But we felt like it's important to include something.
Sweet. Okay, moving on again, back to our new business thing. We've learned about this discussion that's big happening around the city now. I want to invite my board members to start participating in the Salt Lake Community Network meetings if you're interested in coming. I mean, it's in Zoom, so anybody can come. It's essentially supposed to be chairs, but I have put this on the agenda so I can make y'all aware about. I mean, sometimes they're really great discussions, but also you can go back and watch the whole recording of the discussion and the full presentation. And we'll put that up for you to see. Okay, so again, we'll be working on the bylaw changes and we'll have our peeps look at our liability insurance and we'll have a conversation about what we want to do as far as insurance moving forward. And this is where I messed up as a typo in the thing, is that we have 2 CIP proposals that are coming before us. One is the 12th East High Safety CIP. The other one is the Tracy Aviary CIP, in which Tracy Aviary has asked us to write a letter regarding some changes at the aviary there, which I will give everyone through an email. The other thing that came up as far as new business is the Zoom. I was reviewing the Zoom and signing us, repaying for our Zoom, and I had some questions. So I am putting this on Jeff's agenda, and he's going to be looking at our Zoom and what we're paying for and what we're getting. The next thing is, probably a really important part of our meeting, and we have just plenty enough time to introduce you to our potential new board member. But first of all, I have to remind everybody that September is the year that we nominate people for board positions, right? And then October, we formally vote. So the only folks that are up for re-election are myself as chair, Jeff as vice chair, Alicia Seeley as the, she's only been doing it a while, but we have to formally accept her in the role as East of what, or not East of West, but East Emerson. And then we have a potential new board member, again, Andrew, this is his first meeting. He lives in the west of East area, so he's actually my neighbor just a couple blocks away. So why don't you go ahead and tell us about yourself, Andrew, and tell us all the cool things you're working on and why we love it.
Sure thing. My name is Andrew Katsoharakis. I've lived in the neighborhood for, gosh, I think about coming up on, I think it's been about 4 years now. I've lived in Salt Lake City most of my life. I am a mechanical engineer by trade. I work for Stadler, which is the company out by the airport that builds trains. It's going to be a spoiler alert for my interests and hobbies that I have in my spare time as well. But I've always loved this area. I've been super excited to live here. And recently I wanted to get a lot more involved. And Christina was gracious enough to kind of extend an invitation to join you guys and to do just that. Something that I've also been doing in my spare time is I'm a huge advocate for something that I think many of you might have heard of called the Rio Grande Plan. For those of you who haven't heard, the Rio Grande Plan is a citizen-authored, volunteer grassroots push that we're trying to get the city, the region, the state, all collectively to bury the rails that are west of the downtown area and move those under 500 west, and that would help solve a lot of transit issues. It would help make things more efficient. It would let us reactivate the Rio Grande Depot, which was Salt Lake's old historic train station in that area. But the big one for me, I got interested in the project because of all the train stuff, the Rio Grande Depot, but where I really sunk my teeth into it is I didn't realize how much of a huge equity issue with the rails are. The fact that it creates, honestly, more of a daily separation between the east and the west side, even, maybe controversially saying this, but even more so than I-15, because at least you can cross under the freeway when the freight rails when the freight trains on the rails are stopped for an hour at a time, people can't cross, and that has knock-on effects to school bus routes, to UTA routes. 8 people have been hit by front runners since 2020. So I've been really passionate about this as a way to physically stitch together back our city. And I want to see, I genuinely am involved in the neighborhood and want to get more involved, but I also want to help ELPCO maybe support this effort a little bit too, and get more involved in that. So that's my introduction.
Perfect.
Great. Well, I'm gonna, before I open it up to questions from the group, I'm gonna say why, why I, fell in love with the work of the train bros, as we so affectionately refer to these gentlemen as. And I met both Amy and I actually met one of the folks from the Rio Grande plan, Frederick, at the legislative session that was held during the last legislative season. And he came, he's a very eloquent speaker. And you know, I was just right off the bat that, you know, I'm going to be your greatest supporter. I personally am going to be your greatest supporter because the students and the youth that I work with that attend East High School every single day spend an hour plus on the bus just to get from their West Side neighborhoods to my neighborhood every day. And, you know, as somebody who's concerned about their education and equity, just simple, basic equity, these youth are getting the shaft in my mind. So I personally am a huge proponent of this plan. But funny story, Andrew here really rose to the occasion in true ELPCO style of just showing his passion and being super real and communicative in addition to being very professional. So I'm highly recommending that we offer him a position on our board as the new West of East representative. And then I feel like we have really taken big steps to forming a true transportation committee. Does anyone have any other comments or suggestions or questions from Andrew?
Can you hear me talk?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can.
Okay, I'm a real fan of this. This was a dream that Dee Cordini had 100 years ago when I was on the planning commission. And she talked about it a lot. And I think maybe she got a couple of lines buried, but not all 7 or 12. I can't remember the number now, but it's a lot of rail lines that need to go. So I think this is great.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Hopefully, you know, we have the organization is growing, the effort is growing. It's super interesting. Recently, we had KSL reach out to us and ask one of us if we could be interviewed on the topic of absenteeism in schools, and we were caught off guard because we are very, you know, we're not shy. Where we reach out to people, cold call politicians, any stakeholders we can think of, and we didn't think about this one at all. And the reason they reached out to us was because there was a video that the mayor and the school system superintendent had put out on the issues of absenteeism, and people that we had no connection with as a group were commenting in the comments of this video, have you heard of the Rio Grande plan? Is this a way to get people actually to school on time? And we, you know, there's enough of an organic growth and a citywide awareness of this issue that we think that we're going to hit a critical mass, hopefully soon, of just people that care about this, and then the representatives also caring about this as well. So fingers crossed.
Great. Okay, well, so I have a formal nomination of Andrew. Can I get a nomination and then a second from the group?
Can I ask a question about our bylaws?
Sure.
Andrew, you're awesome, doing killer work, no shade. But doesn't he have to attend 3 meetings before we can vote on him?
This is just to like see him as a person coming on. This isn't to accept him. He already knows he has to do 3 meetings, but yes, you're accurate. So what
Okay.
I was doing today is that like we're recognize him as a potential
Okay.
potential board member if he goes to the next 3 meetings or, you know, 3 meetings.
No
and-
shade, Andrew, just
Of
checking
course.
on policy.
Absolutely.
So Alicia, to your point, and to be clear to everyone out there, right? This is just like the first step, right? This is generally something we do through email. When we're bringing somebody on, but since this is our formal recognition month, our formal nomination month, right? The process is a little different. Usually people put together some information about themselves and we send it out, and then people decide and vote if there's somebody that we're interested in bringing onto the board, right? And then they have to attend 3 months. Does that make sense? Or if there's even an opening. So good question, Alicia. But again, as far as our bylaws go, September is when we can formally nominate folks, right? And then he has to go to 3 meetings before we vote on him. And that's our membership that votes on him as a board member, right? Jennifer Seeley, right, she's being nominated. She's already been
Alicia.
on our board. I mean, yeah, Alicia Seeley has already been nominated. She is on our board, but next month we will vote if we're going to retain her for a full 2 years, and that's our membership voting, right? Myself, and is there any other nominations out there that people want to nominate? Anyone? So myself and Jeff, right, are up for reelection. And then we're running for 2 more years. And we will vote on our membership next month, right? And I just want to make clear that there's 2 separate mechanisms happening here, okay?
Yeah.
And Andrew,
Yep.
I know that was complicated, but are you understanding what constitutes your next 3 meetings?
Absolutely.
Okay, so those are board meetings, in-person board meetings or in-person community meetings?
Yep. And the
Okay.
next one being in October, correct?
Alicia, we're planning on having the second Thursday. Is that right?
Yes, Loose meets the second Thursday of every month.
Cool.
All right, so we are pretty close. That was a huge, huge agenda, but we cruised through that. So does anybody else have anything they want to talk about? Any new business that haven't been on the agenda that we can get to real quick? I see somebody named Max on there. Just wondering if you're interested in bringing anything up tonight?
No, I don't have anything to bring up, but yeah, I mean, I went to 9th and 9th Fest. I figured I'd hop on the call today and maybe be a part of this.
Great. Where do you live? I mean, do you live in East Liberty Park?
Yeah, I live behind Roland Hall.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, pretty close to 9th and 9th.
Well, we're always looking, I mean, we're pretty loose in terms of our board structure because we're always interested in working with as many people who want to work with us. So if you are interested in joining our board, I'm happy to meet with you at some point and talk about maybe what you're interested in. Maybe you're just interested in volunteering or just the street festival or whatever. We love to have people help us. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think I mostly just wanted to see what this was all about today and what happened at happens at these meetings. I mean, I've heard about community councils before, so yeah, just yeah, it's just I don't know, a lot of like important nitty-gritty stuff happens in these types of meetings and doesn't always get all the attention.
Yeah. Well, one thing I want to do, I want you to come back to other meetings because I mean, it is interesting. Right now, we just went through a whole bunch of business. Usually we do have folks from the city or other places coming and talking to us and giving us presentations of important things that are happening, heat islands and, different land use and zoning issues and things like that. But there's really not anything happening. So we filled it up with business. So that's something that you should definitely come back and look for, check out. And also like we try and solve problems at ELPCO, which is, we do like to hear from constituents, your neighbors. You live in a really interesting area right there. We try and get as many neighborhood representatives that will come to us with actually like eyes and ears on the street. Here's the problem. How do we solve it? Negotiating pathways through the city to actually problem solve. So, glad to have you come back anytime. And definitely reach out an email if there's something more specific that you're interested in working on. So,
Yeah, we'll do.
okay, great. All right. So I think we're done. Is there anybody else that has anything to say? All right, thank you everyone for coming, and thanks everyone for again the street festival situation. So have a good night, and I am officially closing out the meeting of the 2024 September ELPCO Community Meeting. Good night.
Thank
Nice
you.
meeting you guys.
Thanks all.